Hi, this is Matt Bradley-Tschirgi, author of Star Trek Video Games, A Guide to the Final Frontier, the films that available, the video game movies, and other books. You can check those out at Amazon.com and follow me on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at MATWBT. If you like what you see here, please give me a follow. And what we were doing, I got to configure one more thing here with Twitch. It's always something, isn't it? Just 1 second. But what we're looking at here is a game called James Clavell's Shogun, which is a late game by Infocom. They made games like Zork and other kind of text adventures, right? And this one was based off what at the time was a popular novel and TV miniseries. And at the time, it was a big deal. And what we're doing here, just going to do Shogun. Text adventure. Okay. So we got all that set up in my stream info. Very good. Yep, looks like the screens are good, so let's keep on going. And so these text adventures, you'll see this version has, graphics in it technically, but this is, it was done by Dave Lebling as the designer for it. Looks like 18 separate scenes. We'll see how we get. I call this being pretty difficult. And I read the book ages ago, a long time ago, but anyhow, we can see, the original, this game came out in 88. The literary work, meaning the book, came out in 75. And there just is a newer, a mini-series of this, or TV series, I guess they're calling it. That came out just called Shogun. But in the 80s, they also did a mini-series of it. So let's start. And I mean, this has nice graphics on the side. Infocom, did some graphic stuff. Later on, never quite made that transition. Was not out of their wheelhouse. But I think in Shogun, there's some pretty good examples of imagery that, while not needed to beat the game, gives it some good flavor. Erasmus, isn't that great? I love this artwork here and this stuff on the side. It says your score, how many moves you've taken. Erasmus is the ship in the beginning, right? The gale tears at you, biting deep within, and you know that if you don't make landfall soon, you'll all be dead. You are, excuse me, gotta check one thing here. Okay, great. Yep, no, I wasn't trying to, great PC speaker noises. You're John Blackthorne, you're on the ship, pilot major of a dead fleet, 1 ship out of 5, 8 and 20 men at 127 and only 10 can talk. Little food, water, almost no water, brackish and foul. This is the bridge to the Erasmus. The unlatched wheel is forward of you. I guess when I clicked out of there, I didn't like it. The unlatched wheel is directly forward of you. A sea chair is lashed to the deck aft of the wheel, and the ship's bell is hanging here. Spray blows past in an angry torrent. The wheels dominate the quarterdeck. It is turned straight, meaning you're holding it like this, right? And, okay, so wondering, I am drinking a Pelican Brewing Nectar and Hop India Pale Ale, 7.1 alcohol content for a American pint, 16 ounces. And this is tropical dank aromas and notes of passion fruit, peach, and sweet grapefruit with a subtle bitterness and a crisp finish. It's pretty hazy, that's for damn sure. Okay. So the ship heels in a sudden squall, throwing you from your post at the wheel, which, uncontrolled, begins to turn to port. So straighten the wheel. Move this mouse out of the way here. Hendrik Speck's third mate appears on deck, pulling himself painfully up the gangway. He joins you on the bridge. Go below, pilot. I'll take this watch if it pleases you. Grey with fatigue, he leans heavily against the binnacle and retches. Blessed Lord Jesus, help me. So we're going to order Specs to take the wheel. So you think Hendrik Specs take the wheel? Okay. Where's the landfall you promised us? Where's Japan's? Where is it, I ask? Oh, we should lash the wheel. You loop the protected lashings around the spokes of the wheel. It is now locked in place. Perhaps there's no Japan's, Hendrik mutters scornfully. It's just a Gotchenbenwoden legend. And because it's underlined, what does that mean, right? You can click on it, I think. Or maybe not. And get it just means it's a foreign language. Let's try that again. So it's saying you're tired, deathly tired, deathly tired, and you're starving. With the start, you realize it's time to go below and send replacements for men on watch, but now freezing and wind burned. It's past time to eat some of your meager cache of food, a few shriveled apples. Time, too, for the unpleasant task of visiting Captain Spielbergen, still a nominal command but deathly sick, confined in his cabin. It's also time to write in your rudder. The rudder is their diary, right? Otherwise, though God knows there is nothing new since yesterday, nothing that is but death. Okay, we'll go down. This is the main deck of the Erasmus. A companionway leads to the bridge. Another one forward leads below decks to the quarters. A stairway aft leads to the officers' cabin. Right, so in these text adventures, it would say usually in the first paragraph when you go to a new place, this is north, south, east, and west. Because you're on a ship, it's going aft and forward and so forth. The anchor hangs over the side, ready to be dropped if ever by the grace of God and good piloting the Erasmus reaches port. Okay, let's go 4. You open the foxhole, I don't know what that means, door, and goes through. And then, more, the imagery is not needed, for the game, but it gives it, I think you can even play in all text mode if you want. But it does give nice flavor, and the different colors of the artwork on the side kind of gets your attention, right? As you enter, a vobble of feeble curses, greets you. You close the door and they subside. No one moves. Below decks, the crew's quarters of the Erasmus. A companionway leads up to the deck. It's dim, warm, and close here, and the stench is abominable. Most of the survivors of the crew are in bunks, in hammocks, some of them sleeping, some awake, in various stages of dress. I like that guy pulling his hair out in the middle. That's a fun detail. So we will examine crew. The crewmen here are Krook, Solomon, Sunk, Ginsel, Maitsucker. I think they're all Dutch, which is why their names are like this, but you're British, maybe? And Vink. Vink, Ginsel, and Maitsucker are the best in condition. All everyone else is badly off. So we'll tell the good ones, right, to go on deck. You think Vink, go on deck. You're exhausted. Okay. Ginsel, go on deck. Ginsel, your bow, look out, you say quietly. Yes, sir. Ginsel pulls himself up. You have to do the comma? Damn it. Okay. Take the dawn watch, Vink, you order. Vink pulls himself off his bunk and goes out. So we never told Specs to actually take the wheel. Maybe that's going to kill us. Maitsucker, go on deck. I'm near Beth, the small, sharp-featured man says and cringes away from you. I'm sick. Look, the curvies I'll take in my teeth. Take someone else. Other member of the crew take up the refrain. They're all sick, all scurvied, all tired unto death. So we're going to grab Maitsucker. Maitsucker screams as you jerk him to his feet. Blood flecks his mouth as he pulls the door open and flees in agony. The other crewmen grumble but seem to accept this assertion of your authority. Okay, now we'll go aft. You open the door and go through on the deck. The anchor hangs over the side, ready to be dropped. Okay, so you see Vink here. So we'll tell... Take the wheel. Specs isn't there, so I can't tell him to take the wheel. That's just great. Okay, so we'll go aft again. We're going through the passageway door and go through. As you enter the relative quiet of the aft passageway, you notice Jan Roper heading across the passage from your cabin to the mate's cabin. And now we're in the passageway. The cabin's captain is aft of here. Your cabin is to port, and the mate's cabin is to starboard. The main deck is forward of here. Okay, so we went aft twice. I'll go to port. You open the pilot's cabin door and go through, and you're pilot, right? Pilot Blackthorn, so you're not the captain, but you're pretty high up there, I guess. This is your cabin, sparsely furnished and small, but nonetheless the second best on the ship. The only exit out is to the passageway. The long, narrow bunk with its straw palais, I don't know what that means. It looks inviting. Looks like a mattress, I guess. There's a desk and a sea chest here. Sitting on the desk is a quill. Okay, so we're going to examine the desk. This is a battered old writing desk with a top large enough for charts and rudders. You don't see the apples you've been saving. Apples meaning, you get good for vitamins, of course, but I think that might have helped a little bit with scurvy, not as much as with limes, but you get some of the fresh nutrients from the fruit, right? So we're going to do open desk. Boop. First thing you notice is the apples you've been saving are gone. You notice the key to your sea chest safe and sound where you left it. Get quill and key. That it knows that you can take more than one thing is a pretty sophisticated thing, but Infocom's parser has a text parser, right? Has gotten good by then. You glance at your bunk. You're so tired. Go to sleep for just an hour or 10 minutes. I won't. I'll sleep tomorrow. You force yourself to stay. Enjoy the bad accents. They'll be here all week. Unlock chest. You unlock the sea chest. Open chest. The sea chest opens. Inside it is your rudder and a secret Portuguese rudder. Yeah, so something in the book is like, um, and sea captains really did this at the time. Maybe they still do it. Is they keep a rudder, meaning just 1 second. Yes. No, thank you. Maybe in a second. Um, okay, sure. All right, let's keep going there. We open the chest. Sea chest opens inside. It's your rudder. Okay, what was I saying? Right, the rudder with like the notebooks and where they're going and stuff. They took one that kind of had bullshit on it, so that if they got captured or they got stolen, it wouldn't have all the secrets of where they're going and why they're on the mission. And then he has one in secret in Portuguese, which is a language I think he can speak, but maybe not. A lot of the crew being Dutch, can't. So there you go. Take my rudder. So you're taking that one, and read rudder. Read my rudder. The rudder is the record of your voyage from Rotterdam in the Netherlands, south through the Atlantic, through the Pass of Magellan, up the west coast of South America, and into the unknown Pacific. Cockroaches swarm on the floor. Again, this text is good. Some of it might be directly from the book, as far as I know. I haven't read the whole book, God, since I was in college, so over 20 years ago, right? But there you go. Read the rudder, write in my rudder. So now we're writing a new entry, April 21, 1600, 5th hour, dusk, 133rd day from Santa Maria Island, Chile, on the 32-degree north line of latitude. Sea still high and wind strong. We are running before the wind along a course of 270 degrees, making way briskly. Large reefs were sighted at half the hour, bearing northeast by north, half a league distant. 3 men died in the night of scurvy. Today, bosun Rickloffa died. I estimate we're still on course, and that landfall in the Japan should be soon. But how soon, you wonder? All right. So now I'm going to say put my rudder and quill in chest. You glance at your bunk. You're so tired. Go to sleep for an hour or 10 minutes. I won't no sleep tomorrow, you force yourself to say. So close chest. Lock. Lock chest. So we have locked it securely. Now we're going to go starboard. Starboard again. Now we're in the mate's cabin. This is the mate's cabin. It is shared by Bacchus von Neck, the chief merchant, Hendrik, the third mate, and the boy Krook. The passageways outside. You see Jan Roper, Bacchus von Neck, and Pieterzoon. I love that name. Pieterzoon. Pieterzoon? Pieterzoon? But that's a fun name. Here. Ask Roper about my apple. You've been in my cabin, you say tiredly. I wouldn't steal anything, pilot. Besides, alone in the wilderness, we good Christians must share what little we have. You recall how Roper and the rest didn't conserve their food, especially the fruit, which made your scurvy a matter of aching gums rather than lost teeth. Examine Roper. He's a narrow-eyed young man with a high forehead and a thin nose. His pale chin is marred by a drip of apple juice. The wind freshens even more and the ship lurches. All right. So, take my apple. You grab Roper tightly and twist his arm until he drops the apple into your hands. Now we go port in the passageway. Eat my apple. You carefully eat a quarter of the apple, wrap the remainder, and put it away. One of the few maggots in the quarter you've cut off. But you heed the old sea legend that apple maggots are effective against scurvy. You chew the fruit gently because your teeth are aching and your gums sore and tender. After you finish the apple, you feel better. You open the cabin's door and go through. Captain's cabin. This is the great cabin. The Captain General's quarters and magazine. The passageway leading to the other officer's cabin is forward. Captain General Paulus Spielbergen lies half-conscious in his bunk. The captain's ornate desk fills one wall of the cabin. Spielbergen whines weakly. I'm thirsty, he rasps. You've set some water aside for him out of pity. So we're going to examine his fancy desk. The desk is much like your own, but the captain hasn't used it in weeks. He's too sick to leave his own bunk. You look through the desk, knowing you left a flagon of water in it. In your tiredness, you fumble around, unsure where you put it. And then you remember the secret drawer. Where's the catch? There it is, a piece of small ornamentation. That's a fun word. So, open desk. You open the secret drawer to the desk, revealing the flagon. Spielberg and Wines Weekly. I'm thirsty, he rasps. Get flagon. Give water to Captain. Weekly, Spielberg and drinks a little water. Thanks, he says. Where's land? Where's land? Ahead, is all you can say in reply. Timbers creak pleasantly. That's a strange way to put it. Okay, let's keep going. So we've done all that. You close your ears to the whines and leaves, hating Spielberg in a new passageway. A rat scurries in the shadows cast by a hanging oil lamp. Go again. The anchor hangs over the side, ready to be dropped ever by the grace of God, and your good piloting the Erasmus reaches port. You see Vink here. Okay, we're going to go up. As you climb into the bridge, you see Hendrik has fallen asleep at his post. At least the wheel is lashed in place. Bridge. Spitz is asleep at the wheel. The wheel dominates the quarterdeck. It is stern, straight, and lashed in place now. So I will unlash the wheel. You remove the protective lashing and brace yourself in place against the force of the sea. You can now turn the wheel freely. I'm going to just go over here for 1 second in my guide and move down some. Check out something here. Okay. Sorry about that. Does not like it when I switch. Oh, I see. Now we're doing time passes, so we're going to wait. Time passes. Ginzel, the bow lookout, yells, Rots verut. Reef ahead. A foaming line of surf stretches ahead of you, broken intermittently to port. The yelling wakes Hendrik. Turn wheel to port. Straining against the sea, you turn the wheel to port. The ship turns broadside to the reef, struggling against the wind, which tries to drive it onto the spines. A four-peak halyard snaps. The vocabulary is very complicated in this. And the highest topgallant spar is carried away into the sea, but the ship is now making way parallel to the reef. So we'll do straighten the wheel. You straighten the wheel, trying to hold a steady course. Time passes. The ship runs parallel to the reef, barely staying away from it, and a huge following wave towers over the ship. Time passes. Time passes. Another halyard gives, block and tackle swinging wildly. The wave breaks over the ship. It looks for a moment like you're going to founder, but she shakes it off. All right. I'm going to be back. Just 1 second. Okay, and we're back. Just was having another beverage. My wife made a nice drink for us. This is a French 75, combination of lavender, I think lemon, and champagne. Oh, sweet, clean flavor. Okay, so let's go back here. But damn, that's such a weird beeping, right? Here we go. Do, 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 do. Time passes. Another following sea towers above the ship. The ship is wallowing and the foresails are torn away by the tempest. Ring bell. You ring the bell. All hands on deck, you yell. Time passes. The noise of the bell and your yelling has aroused the crew and they pull themselves onto the deck. They are terrified when they see the encroaching reef. Most are panicked and don't know what to do next. But a few at their last reserves of strength try ineffectually to get the ship under control. Raise the foresails. Yell to the crewmen, foresails ho! Foot by foot they haul themselves into shrouds of the foremast rigging, dragging new sails aloft as others lean into the rope to give them a hand. They curse the sail out of its ropes. It falls open, cracking open like a cannonade as the wind fills it, and the ship lurches. You now have some control. Time passes. A wave comes in stronger than the last. Hendrik is caught and lifted, gasping, struggling into the sea. A giant comber throws Hendrik high above the ship and then takes him away and pulps him against a rock spine. That does not sound pleasant. Time passes. Time passes. Time passes. There's a break in the reef ahead and to starboard. Turn wheel starboard. You turn the wheel to starboard. The wind snaps the sails full and the ship heads for the gap, but it's coming very close to the waiting reef. The gulch through the reef is 3 points to the windward. And you aren't gaining way. You search desperately for another channel, but no, there is none. The Erasmus is heading for the rock starboard of the gap. Turn wheel port. You haul the wheel to port, centering it, trying to hold a steady course. Straining against the sea, you turn the wheel to port. The ship turns broadside to the reef, struggling against the wind, which tries to drive it onto the spines. The ship is gaining way, helped by the fall-off from the wind. You are holding course parallel to the reef and approaching a narrow gap which heads to starboard. You see Vink making his way up the companionway to the bridge. I'm going to straighten the wheel. You straighten the wheel, trying to hold a steady course. Turn wheel to starboard. There is a wailing, tormented shudder as the keel scrapes the razor spines out of the reef below. The wheel spins out of your hands. Vink, help me. Together you and Vink grab the wheel and set her on course again, but she still bobs and twists drunkenly. Straighten the wheel, I guess. You maintain course west. The wheel is still straight. Time passes. The ship is sucked into a narrow vortex between the rocks. The bowsprit catches a rock and is torn loose. The foremast snaps. The men on deck fall on the rigging with axes and cut it adrift as the ship founders down the channel. Time passes. Time passes. The ship is pulled by the waves deeper. In case you're just tuning in, we're playing the James Clavell Shogun game based off the book, which is the inspiration for the new miniseries that came out, and also the original miniseries from the 80s. The ship is pulled into the waves deeper into the strait and then pushed back by their return, but she's making some progress. Time passes. Time passes. For an instant, the strait broadens. Ahead, it narrows ominously and turns to port. Turn wheel to port. Straining against the sea, you turn the wheel to port. The ship turns broadside to the reef, struggling against the wind, which tries to drive it into the spine. The sea race quickens. The ship is in the neck and dead. But a keel scrapes a mud shoal, and the shock turns her head. The rudder bites into the sea. The wind and sea join to help, and before the wind, she speeds through the pass to safety, into the bay beyond. They finish the sea. I'm going to save this game position. Okay. Now we're going to continue. So now this is on next chapter, I guess. Nasine Anjiro, Buddha's house on the quilt. You awaken suddenly. For a moment you think you're dreaming because you are ashore in a small cleaned room whose floor is covered in soft mats. You're lying on a thick quilt. You realize you aren't dreaming because you're terribly hungry. Mura's house on the quilt. The room is filled with muted light shining through the opaque paper that fills squares of cedar lath. The ceiling is polished cedar. Hanging on the wall is a crucifix. There's a red lacquered tray there. Sitting on the red lacquered tray are food and a pair of sticks. So we're going to eat food. You wolf down the vegetables, which have a piquant taste. Piquant? I don't know how to say that. You drain the bowl of soup. You eat the porridge with your fingers, as there appears to be no utensils, just some sticks of wood. But aha, those are chopsticks. You're still ravenously hungry. With an effort, you try to collect yourself. You remember getting the anchor out with Vink. At least you think it was Vink. There are lights ashore. There are lights and strange voices. One of the natives talked a little Portuguese. They must have carried you ashore and put you here. Examine crucifix. This is the sort of crucifix you would expect to find in a Catholic country. You cannot help but look at it with anger and dread, as Spain and Portugal, the Catholic powers, have been at war with England for decades. All your life you had heard rumors of Portugal's secret empire in the East, how they had by now converted the heathens to Catholicism and so held them in bondage. Can these rumors be true? If so, what about the other rumors? That gold here is as cheap as pig iron, and emeralds and diamonds are as plentiful as pebbles on the beach. A panel on the wall slides open. A middle-aged, heavy-set, round-faced woman drops to her knees beside the door, bows, and smiles at you. Excuse me for my not great Japanese. Goshu jin-sama, gokibun wa ikaga desu ka? She asks. Point to tray. You point to the red lacquer tray, and the woman looks at it and nods. She smiles, politely takes the tray, and slides the door shut. Okay. Eat food. There's no food here. All right. Oh, I see. You're feeling better, but I see. Then the woman comes back with food, so I will still eat food. The tray of food is the same as the first. There's no meat, no grog, or brandy. You can eat more slowly now when you try to savor the unfamiliar fare, but you can't convince yourself it's more than just filling. Your stomach is pleasantly full when you finish, though. We're going to wear some clothes. You stand shakily and put on your clothes, feeling strange without your boots. Right, because you're inside. You don't wear shoes inside. Open the door. Oh, isn't that nice? Get to see the cherry blossoms. You reach to open the door, reeling slightly as you're still very weak. You put a hand out to steady yourself, but the light square wood laths can't bear your weight, and they shatter, paper ripping apart. You marvel at how flimsy it is, not at all like the sturdy wooden doors of England. Are there no thieves here? You right yourself and manage to open the door. The shocked woman in the corridor is staring at you, but you cannot see the woman. So there you go. There's a small garden surrounded by a high wall. It's unlike anything you've seen before. A little waterfall and a stream, and a small bridge, and manicured pebbled paths and rocks and flowers and shrubs. It's so clean, so neat. The house is to the west, the village to the east. Sitting at the bottom of the steps are your boots. You see the middle-aged woman here. I'm going to wear boots. You put on your boots. Okay. Going to go east. Oh, that's a nice look. It says Enjiro. The village is set around a crescent harbor that faces east. Perhaps 200 houses, unlike any you've ever seen nesting at the beginning of the mountain, which spills down into the shore. Above are terraced fields to the west and dirt roads that lead to the north and south. Below to the east is the waterfront. In the harbor you can see the Erasmus, which is our ship from the beginning, riding at anchor. You see a tonsured man approaching, and fear sweeps sickeningly from your testicles into your stomach. He is obviously a Portuguese or Spanish priest, and though his flowing robe is orange, there is no mistaking the crucifix and rosary at his belt or the cold hostility on his face. Priest here, a world away in Europe, England and Holland are fighting for their freedom from the priest. Is there no place not infested by these idolators and their inquisition? Your fear begins to give way to rage. Behind him are several Japanese. Okay. Time passes. Who are you? The priest says in Portuguese. He points to the harbor. That's a Netherland privateer. You're a heretic Dutchman. You're pirates. You're an enemy of the church. Time passes. They crucify criminals here. You're going to die. The daimyo is coming with his samurai. God have mercy on you. Time passes. The priest lifts his crucifix and holds it between you as a shield. O God, protect us from this evil. May God have mercy on your soul. You snap something in Japanese, and the men surge towards you, grabbing and pinioning your arms. You feel yourself choking. Hit the Japanese. You're outnumbered and weak, but you manage to smash the nose of one. The noise of his scream slows the rest down a little. Time passes. Suddenly the attack ceases. A young man is 10 paces away. He wears 2 scabbard swords in his belt. His right hand is casually on the hilt of the longer one. Nagigoto da? He asked harshly. Nagigoto da? The Japanese fall to their knees. Time passes. The young man says, Doku no koni no mono da? The priest translates. Kashigi Omi-san says, what's your nationality? Priest, I am English. The priest steps back as though struck. English, England. He begins to explain to Omi, but the samurai cuts him short. Omi says, Onoshi tae doko kara kita no da? The priest said nervously, Kashigi Omi-san says, where do you sail from? Priest, I sailed from Holland. The priest's anger is obvious. A Dutch pirate ship, he gasps. He says something haltingly to Omi-san. Another flurry of words from Omi. Omi-san asks if you're the leader. The headman says there are only a few of you heretics alive and most are sick. Priest, I am the leader. The priest translates for Omi, still digesting what you have told him. Another spate of words from the samurai. Omi-san says because you are the leader, you will be allowed to walk around the village freely until his master comes. Bow to Omi. Omi returns your bow, instinctively knowing exactly the correct degree of deference to show. Omi speaks contemptuously to the priest and his men, then waves them away. They all bow low, except for one man who rises deliberately without bowing. With blinding speed, Omi's killing sword hisses in a silver arc, and the man's head topples off his shoulders. No one else moves a muscle. Ikinasai, he says, motioning everyone away. Waterfront. This is the waterfront of the village. The ground is cobbled, and a stone launching ramp goes from the shore into the sea. There are men and women cleaning fish. Small islands are visible to the east and south. At anchor to the east is the Erasmus. There is a small boat here. The small boat contains oars. It comes suddenly to mind that since you awoke, you haven't seen your rudders or the rest of your crew. Can they still be on the Erasmus, you wonder? Enter boat. You're now in the small boat. Take oar. Taken. In the distance you can hear Omi laughing uproariously. So I will go into my guide and move things along. Great. I'm going to do the annoying speaker thing again. I can't stop that. I mean, I could look at the walkie on my phone, but that'd be pretty annoying. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that is annoying. I don't like it either. You play any Infocom games? There's other good ones. I'm trying to think. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy would be fun. Anyhow. Okay, we're going to row east. You launch the boat and row out into the harbor towards the Erasmus. Harbor in the small town. This is the middle of the harbor. Erasmus is to the east, waterfront to the west. Small islands lie distantly towards the eastern and southern horizons. Row east. You row to the side of the Erasmus. The samurai aboard eye you curiously. Beside the Erasmus in the small boat. The Erasmus rides at anchor here, held by 3 bow cables. Up. You clamber up the gangway into the deck. One samurai, more elaborately dressed than the others, comes over to you and bows. This is the main deck of the Erasmus. A companionway leads up to the bridge. Another one forward leads below deck to the crew quarters. A stairway aft leads to the officers' cabins. Stretched across each doorway is a red silk ribbon. Several samurai are at post on the main deck. They seem a little nervous. Hote okay. The samurai on guard shakes his head to make the point clear. He is no longer smiling. You try again. Kinjuru, the guards say emphatically. While you don't seem to be listening, the guard yells, Kinjuru! You are jerked around to face the samurai. Their swords are half out of the scabbards. They wait for you to make up your mind. You realize they are not going to let you retrieve your rudders and begin to retreat. You remember to bow, and at once all hostility vanishes, but the guards are still watchful. As you climb down the gangway, you can still feel the sweat trickling down your spine. You hate everything about the Japan and wish yourself and your crew back aboard, armed and out to sea. So we finished a scene. We're going to save this position again on the default thing and go to the next scene. This is Yabu, I guess. Village Square. The next day, you and your crewmen are brought before the daimyo. Samurai slam all of you on your knees and push your heads to the dust. Village square. This is the village square of Enjiro. The day is clear and warm. You are kneeling in front of the platform. The daimyo Kasigi Yabu sits in the platform. The rabble of the ship's crew kneel behind you, guards watching them. Captain General Paulus Spielbergen lies nearly unconscious on a pallet. You see Omi, Father Sebastio, and Mura here. Father Sebastio comes forward. I will translate for you, he says. The daimyo Kasigi Yabu, Lord of Izu, wants to know who you are, where you come from, how you got here, and what acts of piracy you have committed. So we will say, Sebastio, I am John Blackthorne. Father Sebastio translates your answer. He seems very deferential to Yabu and very sweaty. Father Sebastio asked, where did you sail from? Sebastio, I sailed from Holland. Father Sebastio translates your answer. Yabu is showing irritation and impatience. Perhaps the Jesuit's Japanese isn't fluent. The Jesuit asked, what are you? You're not the captain. Sebastio, I am the pilot. Father Sebastio doesn't translate what you said. Instead, he asked, why is an Englishman the pilot of a Dutch ship? Answer. Yabu looks annoyed at the priest. Perhaps they aren't allies after all. Father Sebastio asks, trying to control his anger, how did you get here? Sebastio, I sailed the Straits of Magellan. Salon entry. You describe your voyage. We came through Magellan's Pass. This is the 136th day from here. You're lying. Magellan's Pass is a secret. You came via Africa and India. You have to tell the truth eventually. They use torture here. Now, Father Sebastio is barely listening to you. You are a lying heretic pirate, screams the priest, spittle flying from his mouth as he whirls towards you, shaking his fist. His crucifix on its long chain waves mockingly near your face. I'm going to grab the crucifix. You snatch the crucifix from Father Sebastio's hand. He stares at you, shocked and astonished. Yabu watches your incredible behavior with disgust, Omi with increasing interest. You can all see his curiosity. What will the barbarian do next? Ano mono wa nani o moshite oru? The daimyo snaps impatiently. We're going to break crucifix. You break the crucifix in two and hurl the pieces in the ground. The samurai watch. Omi, in particular, seems interested and excited. Father Sebastio kneels, staring fixedly at the pieces of his cross. He picks up the violated wood. He turns to you and says quietly, I will pray for you, heretic. Bow to Yabu. You bow, bending forward from your kneeling position. Yabu motions the guards forward, giving them curt orders. You have insulted Lord Yabu with your bad manners and incredible impertinence, explains Father Sebastio smugly. Yabu turns to confer with Omi. After a while, Yabu and Omi finish their polite discussion. Yabu speaks to the guards again, and Father Sebastio explodes with indignation. They are sparing you and your crew precisely because you are heretics who hate the true church. Surely this land is in the power of Satan. Yabu smiles happily at you and your crewmen, and then points to you and barks an additional order to Omi, who bows. You shudder, wondering what fate could be in store for you, and afraid you're about to find out. All right. So we will save the game position. File exists, delete it. Okay. Continue to the next scene. So now it's the pit. At Yabu's order, the samurai herd you and your crew across the square, down a ladder and underground. Let me move this pillow up on my neck. That feels nice. I'll pull this a bit forward. There we go. Sound should be good, right? Pit. You're crammed into a deep cellar, one of the many that fishermen use to store sun-dried fish. The cellar is 5 paces long and 5 wide and 4 deep, with an earthen floor and walls. The ceiling is made of planks with a foot of earth above and a single closed trapdoor set into it. Captain General Paula Spielbergen sits in the mud, leaning back against a wall. You see Sonk, Jan Roper, Bacchus van Neck, Matsuker, Ginzel, Kruk, Vink, Salaman, and Pieterzoon here. Captain General Spielbergen, half awakened Kurla, says, "Pass the water." "There isn't any, Paulus," Van Neck answers gloomily. "We haven't even a pot to piss in." Spielbergen points at Vink. "Ask for water." Vink stands under the opening and shouts, "Hey, you up there, give us God-cursed water. We want food and water." There's no answer, except for my terrible accents. So I will yell. You begin yelling and everyone else joins in. "Water and food, by God. Let's get us out of here." Now, ooh, this is a good graphic, right? We see someone looking at us with looks like Sebastio. Omi, okay, I see. The trapdoor opens. Omi looks down at you. Beside him are Mura and the priest. Everyone but you begins yelling, "Water and food, by God, let us out of here." Omi motions to Mura, who nods and leaves. Mura returns with another fisherman carrying a large barrel. They empty the contents, rotting fish offal and seawater, onto your heads. Gonna examine old Omi. Ah. Oh, that's a good. It looks like I took some of these from the old carvings, right? The old paintings. The young man is a head shorter and much younger than you. His handsome face slightly pockmarked, though. He wears breeches and clogs and a light kimono with 2 scabbard swords stuck into the back. One is dagger-like, the other a 2-handed killing sword, is long and slightly curved. One begins talking. When he finishes, the priest nervously translates. These are Kasigi Omi's orders. You will begin to act like the decent human beings. You will make no more noise. When you have learned to behave, you will be allowed up into the world of men. Lord Yabu has spared all your lives, proving you serve him loyally. All except one. One of you is to die at dusk. You are to choose who it will be. The trapdoor slams into place. Time passes. It's now very near dusk. Spielbergen collects a bundle of rice straw stalks from the litter in the pit. Slowly, reluctantly, the crewman draws straws. Sonk first, then Pieterzoon, then Jan Roper, Salomon, and Kruk. Then Ginsel is safe. 5 left. Matsuker, weeping openly, pushes Vink aside and takes a straw. He can't believe it's not the one. Van Neck picks, and the straw is not short. Vink watches his fingers select a straw, and it falls to the ground, but everyone sees it's the shortest straw yet. Now it's your turn. Spielbergen holds out his trembling hand towards you. There's only 2 straws left, one for you and one for the captain. You pick a straw, drawing your life out of Spielbergen's hand. It's lawn. Spielbergen, last to pick, unclenches his hand, and you see his straw is lawn. What? Oh, okay. Everyone stares at Vink. "I'm dead," he laughs, unnerving you all. Okay. Time passes. The trapdoor opens. Omi stands etched against the sky, his kimono blooded by the dying sun. The ladder is lowered, and Omi motions for one man to come up. "Isogi," he barks. "Hurry up." Vink tries to stand, but his legs fail him. Pieterzoon bends down to help him to his feet. All right. Let's stop Vink. You move between Vink and the ladder. "Kinjuru," you say, remembering the word from the ship. "None of my crew is walking to death without a fight." "It's all right, pilot," Vink whispers. "We did agree and it was fair. It's God's will. I'm going." He steps to the foot of the ladder. "Get away from the ladder, pilot. You're ordered away." Spielbergen shakily keeps to his corner as far from the ladder as possible. You stand implacably in the way. Omi snarls orders to his men. At once a samurai, followed by 2 others, start down the steps, swords unsheathed. That's a good one. Okay, we will attack the samurai. You grapple with one of the samurai, who kicks viciously. The entire crew hurls themselves at the ladder. The man manages to throw his sword out of the pit, but tumbles heavily into the mud. The samurai you knocked off the ladder gropes his way to his feet. The fall obviously hurt him. Attack the samurai. You attempt to subdue the samurai, and Vink helps, pounding again and again. Don't kill him. We can use him as a hostage, you warn. Finally, Vink kicks him in the back of the neck, and he goes limp, dropping his dagger. 3 more samurai, carrying knives and wearing only loincloths, leap nimbly into the cellar. The first 2 crash into you, carrying helpless to the floor. They attack viciously, and the crewmen retreat. One samurai retrieves the dagger. Omi comes arrogantly into the pit and grabs the nearest man, who is Peterzun. He jerks him towards the ladder. Christ help me, it's not that's me to go. Peterzun is being driven up the ladder. Omi follows without hurrying. The samurai retreats, stepping contemptuously over the prostrate body of the unconscious comrade. The ladder is jerked aloft. Air and sky and light vanish. Bolts crash into place. Okay. So we'll wait. Time passes. The screams begin when the moon is high and cease just before the first light. Kill samurai. You hold his face into the water until he stops breathing. He's dead. Finally, it is high noon. Everyone is nervous, tired, and scared from listening to the screams. There are footsteps above. The trapdoor opens and the ladder is lowered again. The priest stands there, flanked by samurai. Pilot, you are to come up. You are to come up alone, he says. Up. You climb up the ladder into the sunlight, blinking in the brightness. Village square. A ladder leans down into the pit. A huge black iron cauldron stands in the square. The daimyo, Kasigi Yabu, sits on the platform. You see Omi, Father Sebastio, and the samurai guards and Mura here. The priest says, Omi-shan says you will be given a bath and food and drink. If you behave, you will not be put back into the pit. Your men will stay below. If you do not behave, another one of your men will be taken up. There's plenty of firewood. He pauses while Omi speaks to him at length. Omi-san says you must obey. Do what you are told. Eat done if need be. The Japanese full, yes, is high. If you agree, say it directly to him. So you say hi to Omi-san. Omi-san says, lie down immediately. Omi watches you with great curiosity. You do as you're ordered. Omi-san says, because you are a barbarian and know no better, you will not be killed, but you will be taught manners. You see Omi hitch up his kimono. He pisses on your back. Yeah, this is right out of the book, and it's in the miniseries too. By the Lord God, you swear, will remember this day, and somehow, somewhere, Omi will pay. Omi adjusts his kimono and continues to speak in a casual way. The priest translates. Omi-shan says, because no one can say the barbarous sounds of your name. You are to be called Anjin, pilot. He asked me to impress upon you that this is not intended as an insult. If you continue to behave, you will be called Anjin-san, Mr. Pilot, when you merit it. You stand up. The priest translates. Omi-shan suggests you take a bath. He smirks contemptuously. A barbarous costume, once you're born and once you're laid out, is good enough for us. But here they bathe constantly. Mura says there's a bathhouse over there. He points to the north. You enter the bathhouse, followed by Mura, who keeps a close eye on you. Bathhouse. This would be nice to see a picture of this, wouldn't it? Bathhouse is dominated by a huge wooden tub steaming with scalding water. You're reminded of the torture you have just seen and shiver with fear. A crowd of villagers, old women and men, are sitting and standing around the tub. They seem intensely interested in the proceedings. You see Mura and Ona here. Mura pantomimes removing your clothes, saying, Dozo, Ajin, gobindasai. So we will remove boots. You remove your boots. The old women watching cackle and nudge each other in the ribs. Mura pantomimes removing your clothes, saying, Dozo, Anjin, gomennasai. Remove clothes. You slowly remove your clothes, embarrassed by the audience. They don't even have the courtesy of looking the other way. The old women laugh and joke with each other. Finally, you're naked, covering yourself the best you can. One old crone claps her hands, and Mura says to you with enormous gravity, Captain-san, Mother-san thanks you. Best she's ever seen. Now die happy. Mura points to your clothes. Drop boots and clothes. Mura points to the bathtub. Please go there, she says in halting Portuguese. Enter tub. You climb gingerly up and over the sky to the tub and ease yourself in. The water is scalding. Wash me. You splash some of the scalding water half-heartedly over yourself. The water is soapy and scented and washes away the filth. 3 times you make them scour your back with the roughest stone and with pumice. You begin to feel cleaner, but your back still hurts with shame, burns with shame. Before long, even your hatred of Omi becomes a banked fire as the heat of the bath burns into you, relaxing every muscle and dissolving your fatigue. And we're on to a different scene. Before we do, we're going to... Okay, so tap any tea to continue. Yabu and Omi are sipping cha, tea with the ceremony. Omi's mother can command. Where did you learn so much about the Barbarian mind? He asked Omi. When I was 14, I had a teacher who had been a Christian priest. He said that Christians were vulnerable because they were taught that people should love one another and that life was sacred. These new barbarians are a different sect. I thought we could control the leader by taking the life or threatening to take the life of one of them. Omi avoids mentioning the torture death, the foul death reigning in disgust. Is the barbarian broken for good? Asked Yabu. Is it temporary or permanent? Temporary, Omi answers. Only temporary, Lord. So we're going to save. Game position. And now we're going to a new scene with Rodriguez, right? The next day you walk down the hill, and the four samurai flanking you. Ahead the street curves with the contour of the hillside, slides down the harbor. This is a waterfront. This is the waterfront of the village. The ground is cobbled and a stone launching ramp goes from the shore into the sea. There are men and women cleaning fish. Small islands are visible to the east and the south. At anchor to the east is the Erasmus. A 60-oared galley is anchored off one of the jetties. There's a small boat here. The small boat contains oars. You see archers, an old man, Yabu, Omi, and Mu are here. You can even see that Omi and Yabu are deferring to the old man. He has evidently come from the slave galley. You shiver involuntarily. The last time you saw a slave galley was 2 years ago when the fleet was outward bound off the Gold Coast. You've always had a mortal fear of being taken alive and made a galley slave. Not an unusual fate for a captured seaman. All right. Move something over there. So we will do examine Yabu. And that's another good picture of him. Kasigi Yabu is short, squat, dominating. Omi kneels before the old man, and you the same, bowing exactly as low as Omi. Now there's discussion between Omi, the old man, and Yabu. Yabu speaks to Mura. Muba points at the galley. Anjin-san, please go there. As you wade into the water, striding deeper and deeper until you realize you haven't got enough strength to swim, you return to the beach. Isogi, Omi commands, waving you towards the galley. When you still don't move, there is an immediate order from Omi, and 4 samurai fall on you and pinion your arms. Mura produces a rope and begins to bind your hands. Time passes. Madonna, leave you alone. Wait. Madonna, leave him alone. Hey, leave that bastard alone. Kinjiro ne? Is he the pilot? The engine? You can scarcely believe your ears. The boisterous, abusing Portuguese comes from the deck of the galley. Then you see a man start down the gangway, a Portuguese seaman. Are you the pilot of the Dutchman? This is Rodriguez. Yes. Good. I'm Vasco Rodriguez, pilot of this galley. He turns to the old man and speaks a mixture of Japanese and Portuguese, calling him Toda-sama, but the way it sounds, it comes off Todi-sama. That's better, he says after a while. Listen, pilot, this man's like a king. His name is Toda Hiromatsu. I told him I'd be responsible for you, and I'd blow your head off as soon as drink with you. Now tell me, where are you trained as a pilot? Rodriguez, I trained at Trinity House. Excellent, Inkeles. A nest of pirates indeed, but what pilots you pirates are. We're taking you to Osaka at the pleasure of the great Lord Executioner himself, Toranaga. Maybe you are a pilot. Now, what's the latitude of the Lizard? Rodriguez, the latitude is 50 degrees north. You are the pilot, by God. He shakes your head warmly. Come aboard. There is food and good brandy and wine and grog, and all pilots should love all pilots. Horror, the sperm of the earth. Amen, right? All right, Inkeles. Rodriguez looks into the harbor. She's got good lines, your ship. Madonna, she'd be fast, very rough to deal with. tell him about the ship. Tell Rodriguez about the Erasmus. You tell him about your ship, how you lost the foremast just before making landfall, how the samurai wouldn't let you retrieve your gear. Listen, Rodriguez, there's no chance of getting aboard, is there? They haven't let me back aboard, and I've got no clothes, and they sealed her up the moment we arrived. You carefully avoid mentioning your rudders. Ah, Inglis, let's go aboard. I'd like to see what she's like. Come on, get in the boat. He points to a small boat pulled up on the beach and jumps in. Rodriguez yells to the samurai, You don't have to worry about him, Captain-san. I'm responsible. Me, Rodriguez-san, Ichiban, Anjin-san, by the Virgin. Wakarimasu ka? I'm going to enter the boat. You are now in the small boat. Rodriguez grabs the oars and shoves off with great skill. The Captain Samurai calls out, unmistakably beckoning you to come back. Rodriguez points to the Erasmus. Just go there, he shouts. Tell me if the archers put arrows in their bows, Inglis. So now we're going to examine Archer. There are archers from the galley, all dressed in the same uniform as Hirumatsu. Rodriguez rows towards the Erasmus, pushing against the oars in the Japanese fashion while standing amidships. Examine Archer again. One of the archers has drawn out an arrow and is putting it in his bow. Rodriguez continues to row towards the Erasmus. Tell Rodriguez about the archer. Rodriguez stops rowing immediately and turns towards shore, waving and babbling in pidgin Japanese, reassuring the Captain Samurai, who says something to the man with the arrow. Now the man puts it away. You're at the Erasmus. Rodriguez ships the oars under the watchful eyes of the samurai on board. And so we're in the small boat. We'll go up. So now we're back here again, but now we're with someone, so we can do a few things, I assume. You clamber up the gangway into the deck. One samurai, more elaborately dressed than the others, comes over to you and bows. This is the main deck of the Erasmus. A companionway leads up the bridge, and another one forward leads below deck to the crew quarters. A stairway aft leads the officers' cabins. Stretched across each doorway is a red silk ribbon. This is the same as before. Several samurai are at the post of the main deck. They seem a little bit nervous. Rodriguez vaults into the deck. Konnichiwa to all salt-eating samas, he bellows, bowing like a courtier. Rodriguez heads immediately for the sealed passage. Kinjuru gomen nasai, he says, one of the samurai. Kinjuru gomen nasai, says one of the samurai. Time passes. Kinjuru, eh? Rodriguez says, unimpressed. I'm from Toda Hiromatsu-sama, who's a bigger king than your bugger, and Todi-sama's from Toranaga-san, who's the biggest bugger-sama in the whole world. Nay? As he rips the seal off the door and drops a hand to one of his pistols. Toranaga-sama, he yells. Wakarimasu ka? The samurai hesitates, swords ready. Rodriguez crashes his foot against the door. The latch snaps and the door bursts open. Wakarimasu ka? Wakarimasu ka, Anjin-san? The samurai quickly puts their swords away, and Rodriguez says hoarsely, that's better, and leads the way aft. Passageway. The captain's cabin is aft of here. Your cabin is to port, and the mate's cabin is to starboard. The main deck is forward of here. Rodriguez stands near you. Which is your cabin? Which is your cabin? Asked Rodriguez, and when you pointed out, he enters. The door was unlocked. Pilot's cabin. This is your cabin, sparsely furnished and small, but nonetheless second best on the ship. The only exit is out to the passageway. The room looks as though it's been tidied up and thoroughly turned over again. The long, narrow bunk with its straw palliasse looks inviting. Rodriguez stands near you. There's a sea chest, and the sea chest contains a quill. Where are they? Rodriguez asked. Your rudders. Where are your rudders? No pilot would worry about clothes. You came for the rudders, didn't you? Why do you think I came aboard? I was here 2 or 3 hours ago and searched for them, but found nothing. The Portuguese rudder. It had to be Portuguese. Where is it? Stolen. They're stolen, is all you can say. Omi and the others waited on the jetty until the galley rounded the headland and vanished. He then returned to the pit, summoning the priest. Priest, tell the barbarians there to come up one by one. Lord Yabu says they may live again in the world of men, but the smallest breaking of a rule and 2 will be put back into the pit. They are to behave and obey all orders. Save the game. Oh, yes. Next scene, voyage to Osaka. If it is near noon and you are standing on the quarterdeck of the galley under an overcast sky, during the first night, the galley had sped southward down the east coast of the Izu Peninsula. When it came abreast of the southmost cape, Cape Ito, Rodriguez had set the course west-southwest and had left the safety of the coast for the open sea, heading for a landfall at Cape Shinto 200 miles away. "What do you think, Inglis?" asked Rodriguez. "I think there'll be a storm," you reply. "When?" "Before sunset," you answer. The storm comes before sunset and catches you to sea. The land is 10 miles away. Toranaga's galley. You are standing on the quarterdeck of Toranaga's galley with a good view forward toward the ore deck. A wooden life ring. What is a life ring? Hangs nearby. Rodriguez stands at the helm. The helm is here, turned to port now. The lifeline secures you as the deck pitches and rolls. Oh, that's nice. You get to see the water go over and people. "Watch out forward," Rodriguez shouts. The galley rolls sickeningly, 20 oars pulling in the air instead of at sea, and there's chaos on board. The first comber is struck and the port gunwale is awash. The galley is floundering. Okay. Examine Rodriguez. Oh, whoops. More. Rodriguez is a man as tall and about your age, but black-haired and dark-eyed and carelessly dressed in seaman's clothes, rapier by his sides, pistol in his belt. A jeweled crucifix hangs from his neck. He wears a jaunty cap. "Go forward," Rodriguez orders. "Get him to ship the oars, get him back in order, and then get him rowing again before we all drown. Hurry, hurry, hurry." I'm going to untie line. You untie the line. You know that without your lifeline, you can easily be carried overboard, but the oars have to be shipped or you are lost. "Hurry, Incalas. Where are your cojones?" curses Rodriguez. You fight your way forward along the heaving, greasing deck down the short gangway to the main deck. The main deck. This is the ore deck of the alley, forward of the quarterdeck. The chaos here is incredible. Half the oars are flailing in the air. Some of the oarsmen have been washed overboard, and some have slipped their safety lines to try and fight order into their oars. A skiff is tied to the deck near the center line of the galley. There is an anchor here. Abruptly, the galley swerves, and you are carried on the downside, tripped by the flailing bodies of rowers who have lost their own footing. The gunwale is under water, and one man goes overboard. You feel the rush of water carrying you over the gunwale as well. You grab desperately for the gunwale, and you catch it, your tendons stretching, but your grip holds. Then your other hand reaches the rail, and choking, you pull yourself back. The man is at your feet, and he drags you from the grip of the sea. You ship the oars. You hurl yourself into the work of restoring the rowers. All rowing have stopped except for the 2 oars most forward, which are keeping the galley tidally into the wind. With signs and yelling, you get the oars shipped, double up the men to the working ones, and generally restore order. The oarsmen, spent by their fight against the waves and unsure what to do next, wait for the next order. The storm continues to rage, and the galley is getting no closer to the bay. The oarsmen don't understand you, but they get the idea and begin rowing again. Rodriguez picks his way forward and claps you on the shoulder. He points aft. "You take the helm. When I signal, steer west for that point. You see it? I'm going to help the captain with the oarsmen." Toranaga's galley. A wooden life ring hangs nearby. The helm is here. Turn to port now. There's a broken oar and a safety line here. We're going to take the helm. You take the helm. The wind and the tide are carrying you close to the rocks. Rodriguez stares, terrified at the approaching shore. Straighten the helm. You try to hold a steady course. Rodriguez stares in horror at the jagged rocks of the headland. It's clear he's lost his nerve. "Steer south for the open sea," Rodriguez screams. "Turn and run before the wind. We'll never make it safe to the bay." Turn the helm to starboard. You turn the wheel to starboard, steering for the bay. You hold course towards the bay. Rodriguez shouts, "God curse you, you'll kill us all." That's not good, but take the oar and the ring. Broken oar taken, wooden life ring taken. Oh, that's an exciting scene. What do we have here? A great wave comes out of the north. The galley has taken much water previously, but now you're awash and being driven back towards the rock-infested shore. You see the wave take Rodriguez, and you watch him gasping and struggling in the churning sea. You remember that he can't swim. Throw the oar to Rodriguez. There he goes. You throw the oar towards Rodriguez. It crashes into the water near him, and he lunges for it. The last you see of Rodriguez is an arm gripping a broken bar. Time passes. The ship moves away from the rocks, and you hold the course for the lee shore. Soon you are in calmer waters. There's still a gale, but it's overhead. There's a tempest, but it's out to sea. As you fight your way towards the heavy, creasing deck, down the short gangway to the main deck. A skiff is tied to the deck near the center line of the galley. There's an anchor here. The current is swinging the ship around towards the rocks, away from the safe anchorage. All right. Where are we? That's the question. Oh, I see. We're going to lower the anchor. Let's go to anchor. No one understands your words, but they all know what you want. The anchor splashes over the side. You let the ship fall off wind slightly to test the firmness of the seabed. The ship is safe. Hiromatsu and Yabu climb shakily up from below decks, and both somewhat seasick, but once there, both daimyos stand erect. Somewhere out there is Rodriguez's body. You know there is minimal hope of finding his body, but you feel you owe it to him to try. The skiff is lowered into the water. You go to the gunwale and begin to scale down the side, but a harsh voice stops you. Hiromatsu is here, and with Yabu beside him. "Ie!" Hiromatsu shakes his head and speaks at length, clearly refusing permission because of the danger. This time, the old man points towards his sword at the skiff and shakes his head. He and Yabu begin an animated discussion in Japanese, motioning the mate over to join them. Hiromatsu studies the coast for a while. Finally, he beckons a samurai, points to you, and gives some apparent instructions. The samurai and 6 other warriors clamber nimbly into the skiff, and to the surprise, so does Yabu. Hiromatsu points to the skiff, bows politely to you, then goes below. Yabu motions for you to get in the skiff as well. You climb down the side of the galley, joining the others in the skiff. In the sea, in the skiff. The skiff rides lightly in the relatively gentle sways of the bay. Yabu sits imperiously in the bow, and the search party mans the oars. The galley rides heavily at anchor on the relatively gentle swells of the bay. The skiff contains oars. No shit. Okay, we're gonna row east. The rowers look for Yabu for confirmation, and he nods impatiently. The rowers row the skiff east to the shore, jump out and pull it up into the beach. Pebble beach in the skiff. The beach here consists of small, rounded pebbles. To the south, the cliff rises behind a field of larger rocks. Riding at anchor in the bay is Toranaga's galley. There are 7 samurai here watching you intently. The skiff contains oars, as it already said. So, we're going to exit skiff. You disembark quickly, intending to lead the search party, but Yabu usurps that position and will not yield it. Okay. South. Yabu senses strong pace, but you are hard put to keep up with him. The other 7 samurai watch you carefully. Rocky shore. Inland from the shore, the pebbles become sea-smoothed rocks. To the south is a path leading along the cliffs and around it the headland. To the north is the bay where the galley rides at anchor. There are 7 samurai here watching you intently. Yabu, wet and impatient, watches you carefully. So the same thing about the pacing. Cliff path. Above you, the cliff soars 200 feet. The white frothed sea is 50 feet below. All around are mountains, not a house or hut in the whole bay area. The path dips and rises along the cliff face. Very unsafe, the surface loose. There are 7 samurai in soaking wet kimonos here, watching you intently. Yabu, wet and impatient, watches you carefully. Yabu, around the headland. This side of the headland is the lee of the wind, for which you are very grateful. Half a mile away, a small fishing village nestles in the white frost shore. There are 7 samurai here watching you intently. Yabu, wet and impatient, watches you carefully. Yabu motions to 2 of the samurai, who immediately bow and then lope off towards the fishing village. So we can't scroll up to see what we did already, can we? There's a cliff path Yabu wipes the rain off his face, glances up at you, and motions you to return to the galley. Look down. You search for shore, every crevice and gully. The spume wind is gusting, tearing tears from your eyes. But halfway back along the path, you see Rodriguez. His body is caught in a cleft between two great rocks, above the surf but washed by part of it. One arm is still locked to a broken oar, which moves slightly with the ebb and flow. Points to Rodriguez. Yabu peers over the cliff and sees Rodriguez. He shrugs after say he's dead. He doesn't seem inclined to do anything else. You start for the cliff edge, and immediately the samurai restrain you. Yabu shakes his head. Iye. You stare at Yabu, towering over him. If you won't let me go, Yabu-san, then send me one of your men. Or go yourself. You. The wind tears around you, winding off the cliff face. Yabu looks down, weighing the climb and the falling light, and you know Yabu is hooked. A samurai begins to climb down, but Yabu orders him back. Yabu gives orders to one of the samurai, pointing back towards the beach. The man runs off. Yabu kicks off his thong slippers. He takes the sword out of his belt and puts them safely under cover. He barks some orders at one of the samurai, then takes off his soaking kimono, clad only in his loincloth, goes to the cliff edge, testing it carefully with his toes and feet. Time passes. We can see him in the kimono, right, going down. Yabu climbs down the side of the cliff with great skill. Suddenly, Yabu slips. He grips an out grip with his left. There's Rodriguez in the face down, right? Yabu slips. He grips an out grip with his left hand, stopping his fall. He grinds his toe in a crevice, fighting for another hold, but his left hand rips away. His toes find a cliff, and he hugs the cliff desperately. Then the toe hold gives way. He falls the last 20 feet. Yabu lands on his feet like a cat and comes to rest in a wheezing ball. One ankle is twisted but unbroken. That's good. Yabu reaches Rodriguez, then shouts something. He is signaling the pilot is still alive. One of the samurai runs off towards the galley to fetch a stretcher and a doctor. Yabu pulls Rodriguez up into the rocks out of the surf. Yabu scrambles up and winces at a shaft of pain from his ankle. He manages to climb a few feet up, but stops, his eyes searching the area diligently for a ledge or crack within his reach. He sees no way to get further up the cliff. Take the kimono. Yabu looks out to sea, then looks up at you briefly. He composes himself and sits down on the rocky perch. With a sudden shock, you realize that he has resigned himself to death. Tear the kimono. You tear the silk kimono into strips, testing them for strength. The silk is very strong. The tide is coming in fast, washing closer and closer to the rock Yabu was perched on. Tie these strips together. You tie the strips together, making a rope. The samurai emulate you, removing their own kimonos and leaving them clad only in loincloths. You now have a rope of some length. The tide is coming in fast, washing closer to the rock Yabu was perched on. Lower rope. With help of the samurai, you lower the rope towards Yabu. It's too short, about 20 feet too short. The tide is coming in fast. Point to loincloth. You point to the loincloths, and the samurai immediately understand. They remove them and tie him together, adding them to the rope. It is now significantly longer. The rope now reaches almost to Yabu. If you could climb just a little higher, you might be able to reach it. Search for ledge. You stick your head out over the cliff edge as far as you dare, while the samurai hold your ankles for safety. You begin to search as you would at sea, quarter by quarter, using every part of your vision, but mostly the sides. A complete sweep. Nothing. Once more, nothing. Again, what's that? Just above the tide line? Is it a crack in the cliff? You shift position. Now you can see better. There's clearly a narrow edge. The tides continue to rise. Point to ledge. You shout, pointing at the ledge, pantomiming a man standing on it carrying a burden. Yabu carrying Rodriguez, standing above the waves. If only you can get his attention somehow. The samurai talk rapidly to each other. Then they too begin to shout. There is still no movement from Yabu. He seems like a stone. One of the samurai speaks to the others, and they all nod and bow. He bows back. Then with a sudden screaming shout of "Banzai!" he casts himself off the cliff and falls to his death. Yabu comes violently out of his trance, whirls around and scrambles up. He follows the pointing fingers and shouts of his men and sees the ledge. Within seconds he has scrambled up to it, dragging the unconscious Rodriguez behind him. Yabu scatters up. He half slides, half crawls, dragging the unconscious Rodriguez behind him and through the surf-disturbed shallows to the bottom of the cliff. He finds the ledge. It's barely a foot wide. Painfully, he shoves Rodriguez onto it, almost losing him once, then hauls himself up. Yabu stretches for the rope, pulling himself partway up the cliff, carrying Rodriguez. Twice he loses the pilot, but each time Yabu drags him back. His position is precarious, but you can see that the bottom of the cliff is now completely underwater. For almost an hour, Yabu sets himself against the sea and against the falling body. Then in the dusk, he reaches a wide ledge where he's safe from the sea and he can rest, and not hanged from the makeshift fraying rope. Just then, Samurai Yabu sent to the galley and returns with coils of strong rope. They make a cradle and shin down the cliff with a skill you have never seen before. Quickly, Rodriguez is brought aloft, and then Yabu. You look at him. Thank you. Thank you, you finally say, pointing at Rodriguez. Thank you, Yabu-san. You bow. That's for courage, you black-eyed son of a whore. Yabu bows back stiffly, but inside he smiles. The rest of the voyage to Osaka is uneventful. Rodriguez is tended by a Japanese doctor with strange ideas, such as keeping the air in the cabin fresh, but begins to recover anyway. Ah, Ingles, he sighs. If I live, it is because of a heretic in Japman. He turns serious. Japan's an upside-down world. They have a saying that a man has a false heart in his mouth for all the world to see, another in his breast to show his very special friends and family, and the real one, the true one, the secret one, which is never known to anyone except himself alone. So never forget they're six-faced and have 3 hearts. I'm going to save the game, and then we'll stop here, but we'll do more, I think, tomorrow. That was pretty fun. And pretty wordy for an Infocom game, but again, it's based off a big novel. So hope you like what you see. Please give me a follow, and I will check you out, check things out next time. Thanks.